Looks like chat's working. Okay, we're live. Hey everybody, welcome back to Lorelines, episode 95. Jesus. Pandaemonium Anabaseios part 2. Got Ayumi, Arden, and Cobra here with me today. And yeah, we're gonna continue our discussion from last week. So I forget, we think we kind of got on a tangent towards the end of the cast last week, and we were talking a lot about P11 and then kind of went sideways with discussing P12. So welcome back, everybody, and yeah, how do you guys want to start off today?
Pandaemonium Anabased.
Anabased.
True, though.
Let's start off with where we left off last time, because I was guiding you guys through the cutscenes, and I forget where we left off. We were going through P11.
We were. So our wonderful friend Thamus and the good feels got us off topic.
The good feels.
Yeah, TM, trademark.
Damn feels.
So
I don't play this game to feel anything.
Yeah, really.
No feelings in this game. By the way, just for anybody in chat today, I am streaming from my PC over wireless today. It's a good connection, but if there's any hiccups, please let us know. I want to know honestly if anything's wrong or if it sounds worse or if there is any like rubber banding. Just let me know, and I'll work from there. But it's looking pretty good. Don't see any dropped packets at all.
Woo!
Anyway.
So I think, did we start before we followed Themis into the chamber? Or was that afterwards? Do you remember?
You know what? Let's go back and go before that. Because I don't remember either.
Okay,
I
so
wasn't here for all of last week's discussions, so I don't know what's going on. I just work here.
You just work here. No worries. So we punch a castle to death.
we punch Castle to death. La Habrea muses on the information that we've told him afterwards. He mentions if she bore witness to the past events within Pandaemonium, Athena would have found Olympus impossible to overlook, plucking him from the Ethereal Sea. Few possess such a talent for magics, to say naught of the emissary's discerning judgment. And so she found his soul upon the tides of the Ethereal Sea and used his memories to craft a puppet that would serve her whims.
Ah, right, the bullshit. Got it.
You hate that.
The rant began. So the rant was more or less that we got lore in this game earlier, and both Arden and Kobe and me, and probably everyone else, kind of view this as a same expansion retcon. So
yeah, it absolutely is.
Go into it.
Well, so, you know, when we're at the Crystal Tower on the first, and we're trying to get back to the past to figure out what the hell Elpis even is, the Elpis flower, Elidibus says he can't sense Lord Zodiark anymore. What point is there in living? Y'all won. And he says that consuming the last of his essence, he will send us back to the past. Although we probably can't change anything that will happen there. And that's when we say goodbye. And so that bothered people who didn't like his plot resolution in 5.3 because of the huge character shift from previous patches to that patch. And then to just like say goodbye that quickly kind of bothered some folks. So anyway, here we are in Pandaemonium. We meet past Themis, and in part 3 here, we have a different encounter where he's summoned back from the live stream, even though his batteries are supposed to be completely spent. Does that cover it?
No.
Okay.
No, Cobran has an even worse rant, and I've only heard
Yeah.
part of it. Let's
Go
hear it.
for it.
Yes, his batteries were supposed to be completely spent, but the issue I had was even if they weren't, when he entered the live stream, it was on the first. And in Endwalker, Heidelin establishes that she had to physically bring Minfilia and Emetzel's souls from the first to the live stream on the source. So She said nothing about bringing Elidibus over. So if Elidibus did go back into the live stream after, battering himself, it wouldn't have just floated back over to the source. It would still be trapped on the first.
Which makes sense.
So we're short a piece of the argument, right? Either we're supposed to assume that Athena did that, or we're supposed to assume that the writers forgot something.
Yeah, so either Athena could cross shards and bring his soul over,
And it was off-screened.
and was off-screened, or they just forgot, like you said.
If we're taking bets, how do we bet?
You don't bet. You go straight to FanFest and ask the devs them there.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask that question.
I mean, my bet would honestly be that they forgot.
You know, with the question, the answer is going to be, they've never been like this to us, but it's going to be like the nice version of shut up, nerd.
Stop thinking about it so hard.
Yeah, enjoy the game.
Stop paying attention.
Please have
interpretation.
have some chill, please.
Interpret this.
Oh my god. Stop.
Koberon begins channeling the Eye of Nidhogg.
Every time they give me that, it's up to your interpretation. I'm just going to raise a middle finger to them.
So yes, Elidibus on the first was a primal, but it was still Elidibus's soul.
Are you addressing chat?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, basically, the reason Athena's able to grab him from the live stream based on the context of the quest is that he recently died. So it should be the same soul. And furthermore, our Elidibus was part of Zodiark and disincorporates himself and, sort of becomes a living primal for those period of years.
So I do want to refute that it wasn't a normal soul. It was in the sense that it was unsundered. But after 5.3, after we beat him, we do see his soul form.
Yes.
Kind of like after we defeat Emmett Selk, all that's left is his aether, and then he disappears. So
gets sucked into the crystal.
Yeah.
The crystal's just a Kirby form.
Yes. Yes, the Crystal Tower is a Kirby.
Oh yeah, that too. That quote.
Trust me, I remember quotes.
Yeah. I'm too tired to remember quotes right now.
I was needed, he says.
I wouldn't have had so many lines of Ultima dialogue remembered if I didn't. Anyways, Eric Zonos responds to La Habrea, but what has Themis said true? She imbued Pandaemonium itself with a soul to breathe life into that which should never live. Athena's research is fast approaching its culmination.
Maybe this is why they off-screened the summoning, to turn a castle into a person. I don't know. Weird soul manipulation stuff. I'm still not satisfied that it wasn't addressed directly, but
Yeah.
when are we satisfied?
We care about the story too much, that's why.
Yep. We complain because we love. Also, harumph.
Fortunately, with the information shared with us by your friends, we've made some strides towards figuring out how to stop her. A crystal called the Heart of Sabik may be the key. Kids, never eat your extraterrestrial crystals. The research has related a quick but thorough history of events leading to the present, the sundering of our star, the emergence of the Asians, and calamities they have brought upon the realm. Tales that are under our normal circumstances we would have considered childish fantasy if not for a name that rang true to La Habrea's memories. He knew about it. The Heart of Sabik, to you, the secret of the Ultima weapon's might, not least the spell known as Ultima, a source of enduring mystery. We are told that a general from the Garlean Empire was gifted this auracite by an Asian, that the Ultima weapon might be perfected. The identity of his shadowy benefactor, however, remains a curious unknown. And La Habrea asks us, you seem to be a veritable trove of uncommon knowledge. Is there aught you are withholding?
Yes. Because we're not sure to be angry at you or not. It's uncomfortable. You were like the bwahaha bad guy, and now you seem alright. Like a little bit dark side, but you're still really chill. So
He's the only one in the Praetorium that made any sense.
La Habrea then mentions, very well, at present the heart of Sabik is of greater moment. It is a creation of Athena's, made during her time with the wards of La Habrea. It predates Pandaemonium's construction. She brought it before us a crystal she claimed to have chanced upon, saying it contained immense power. So this was before she even named it the Heart of Sabik. Sabik was the name after her research. Before, it was a crystal, which she had dubbed Auracite. Which it goes into the next screen saying, she dubbed it Auracite, studying it with a fervor unusual even for her. So yes, she was crazy before, but it just made her even crazier after she began studying it. The eventual fruit of her labors was a Stygian crystal unlike all we had ever seen, the Heart of Sabik.
And that's how we got big fat tacos.
I gather that the Heart of Sabik is not the only Auracite of this era. Regardless, I know not of this high seraph. Athena was never forthcoming as to how she found the crystal, though we came to suspect that it was not of our star. This lines up with the fact that Ultima is an extraterrestrial or extra-dimensional, as her statue calls it. So there's a difference between extraterrestrial and extra-dimensional.
huge difference. We were talking before this. I mean, we'll get into deeper later when we go into P12.
Well, we'll go ahead and address this now. Okay. Extraterrestrial means not of this world. Correct. Extra-dimensional means not of this dimension.
Totally different things. Now, in the world before we had the cosmology of the universe and we had 14 shards, you could treat dimensions and space like somewhat similarly, but these are totally different things conceptually.
Yes.
Now we have the cosmology. We physically travel to Ultima Thule. We have Midgard Sormer physically traversing outer space. This is now a different thing. We should be very concerned about extra-dimensional things.
Extra-dimensional meaning, if you believe that shards are a difficult way to get to, if you think that getting to shards is difficult, it is simple. It's as simple as driving down the streets to an extra-dimensional being.
In other words, you have the full breadth of physical space that we can talk about. And then there's something that can peer in from outside that bubble.
It is no longer traveling the vastness of space years upon years on end. It is literally you enter one end and come out the other instantly. Phase in and out of dimensions. Anyways.
Real quick, in chat, Tenebrae Queen admits, also, I never really felt the hype for Elidibus before, but his final words to us made me feel like he was confessing, and I couldn't figure out why I was suddenly flustered, lol. Love his character. It was an awesome send-off. Agreed.
I think so too. It was a good closure. Very sweet.
That was just twisting the knife for me.
Hey.
Yeah.
Although the end, I will get to.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that white light.
Yeah.
Much later, we discovered that Auracite magnetizes the desires of those who come into contact with it. This would do much to explain Athena's actions following the recovery of the crystal. So this we know. This lines up with what happened in the Evilise raids, in that the Auracite began to affect Argath briefly before we fought him as Duma. And we also saw that Bagamnon, in the possession of the Taurus Auracite, began to twist and transform himself into Yasmat. His desires to see the Garlean Empire destroyed were the factor in that. He began having hallucinations, seeing the Fourth Legion, including Gabranth, at the Clock Tower of Gaug. It was right before that scene. And then we fight him atop there.
The Empire's a cancer, and I'm the Barber's Blade.
I love that entire raid series. For those of you who haven't done it, go do it, and then also pay attention to the cutscenes. No matter how long they are, they do relate to this raid. Library note goes, alas, this realization came too late. By the time I moved to seal the aura site and its insidious influence away, Athena's plot had already been laid. And so Ericonios asks, what became of the heart of Sabik? La Habrea, I took it from Athena's laboratory and after I ended her life. The density of the aether within was unlike anything I had observed. I knew its capacity for its for destruction, but further analysis proved impossible. I liked to safeguard it myself. It's possible that Athena herself obscured the crystal's contents. Even were her memory stored within, I would have remained in ignorance. If she included some mechanism by which to give these memories form, as she did with our own, so this is exactly what she did. She found a way to transplant her own memories inside the crystal. La Habrea overlooked it. Later on, we have La Habrea concealing the crystal, avoiding the crystal itself, avoiding the sundering, and La Habrea became affected by it. Ironic that I should have protected these very memories in the name of safeguarding the star. Fate is loath to see these mistakes go unpunished. So pretty much in the name of safeguarding the star, he essentially doomed it.
Yeah.
Unknowingly.
We talked about this a little bit last week as well, which is the he's commenting here on the like unfairness of fate. Like he holds on to the aura site to keep it safe because it's not really something you store somewhere. You don't want someone to come up across. And in the process of holding it for 12,000 years, maybe it made him a little crazy.
Our next story arc will be killing Fate.
Killing Fate?
FF7R.
Thought we did that already.
I mean, we've killed a lot of Fates, yes. But different kind.
La Habrea goes, although Athena's essence is that of memory, her magics have not suffered for lack of a physical body. As the world is now, it should not be possible, but she must have found a suitable vessel. If Elidibus is to be believed, she readies this vessel for godhood, and that is perilously close to success. So this echoes, actually, what Ultima was doing in the Evilise raids, which was using Alma as a vessel for and baiting us into showing up at the Orban Monastery in order to possess us. However, we had tools of our own to bring her back, and we went on our own volition to stop her. So Ultima was also preparing a vessel, albeit through a medium, whereas it should pretty much be the same here through Athena, except Athena has her own. Athena is being controlled by the crystal, being enhanced by the crystal, and descending to godhood.
This is going to be phrased like maybe a little bit too highbrow, but it's like a parasitic fractal where you have like the original god being that corrupts another one, and then that one is trying to do the same thing the original one was trying to do. It's just going to keep looping down until there's nothing left but madness across the universe. Thoughts?
So before we saw Ultima as a kind of just a boss, like some kind of primal. And we didn't think anything much of her. Just like, okay, yeah, here's some dialogue on her, here's what happened in the past, so on and so forth. Pandaemonium comes out, and now we see her as a parasite. She's more than just a boss. She has been ingrained in not only Etheri's lore, but the entire universe lore and the entire cosmic lore now.
being present in ancient times, pre-sundering, is a completely different situation than we were in before. It's just totally different. Because the lore
And
we have is that it came from, during one of the Sunder eras, and that's just not the case.
During the Evilly series, we were only aware that Hydaelyn sealed her away in ancient times, only for her to come back, and Ramza sealed her away again, and then we presumably killed her. I would say sealed away, but it's more like a sealing. Her final quote is, "Consign me unto darkness, and your light shall be forever lost." Well, we have many ways of consigning people unto darkness, and that's sending them to either to the ethereal sea or sending them back to the void. So I don't think that Ultima can essentially be killed on Etheres. And I don't think that the version of Ultima that you find on the source, these 3 times that we've found her, is the actual Ultima. Thoughts? Anyone?
Well, before stream, go ahead.
I think that's pretty scary. And going back to what Fal said, that Ultima is an interdimensional being, presuming infinite dimensions, that technically means there could be an infinite number of Ultimas out there as well.
Or things like it.
Yeah, or worse things.
So, Cobran, Ayumi was saying before stream, when you talked about this earlier, you were like, is this Bloodborne?
I showed you the music, remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, we'll get to that a little bit later, but this is really, really scary. Different game, but in Bloodborne, in all Dark Souls games, you get empowered by grabbing something from an enemy, either their souls, which you consume to level up, or in some games like Dark Souls 1, it's called humanity that you get, and it makes you able to not be a zombie anymore. This whole thing. In Bloodborne, you accrue skulls of madness, and the more madness you accrue, the world around you can see different things. So, it's the Eldritch horror stuff. Things that are way bigger than us, that we have no business perceiving, that will drive us mad if we dare. So yeah, it's very scary stuff to me, at least.
Yeah, I heard that music and I was like, ooh, this is terrifying.
It was also mentioned, I believe you mentioned something about Hermes as well.
You'll have to remind me.
How he is
Yeah, I remember now. Yeah, basically how Hermes inadvertently saved the world. Because had Hermes not, done his little go crazy experiment and launched Medion off everywhere, and Medion done her thing, Ultima would have completely wiped out the Ancients, no question.
Yeah,
which
so
inadvertently turns Hermes into a misguided hero.
Yeah, so this is funny because in chat, not 5 minutes ago, Tenebrae Queen said, "Villain destroys various worlds. Fandom. He's just a little guy. He did nothing wrong."
Yeah, no, fuck Medion. But but I think, through Hermes' test, he inadvertently gave humanity the tools that it needed to survive. As much as I hate it.
Well, that's the nature of things. One thing follows another.
Tetsu, why wasn't Hydaelyn or Ramza able to kill her but only seal her?
Not strong enough.
This is an extra dimensional being. This is a being far more powerful beyond the confines and breadth and scope of anything that we have faced before.
A good way to consider this is also something we were talking just before the cast. We were talking about this, and What we're seeing now, like my perspective on Ultima the High Seraph during Ivalice was kind of like that was the being, period. Maybe it was a living primal, but it was nevertheless the being fundamentally. So this being existing before and also after now is a different thing. It's almost like these entities we're defeating or even sealing are just the avatars of the higher dimensional being present in our universe, and you're never going to get the real thing, and that scares the hell out of me.
And so Ultima showed up in distant times past. Heidelin herself wasn't able to excise her, wasn't able to kill her.
At the height of her powers, no less. Well, post Zodiark, presumably, but still during a Sunder era when she hasn't used all of her batteries and,
Yeah, she wasn't able to kill her herself. She was able to seal her away. Fast forward a couple of centuries to the time of Ivalice, Ramza and the Zodiac Braves. They mentioned that they had to do what Heidelin did in times past and seal her away. Ramza gave up his physical body to seal away Ultima. Ramza was a warrior of light.
I also want to add that while we are 8th, 14th, Ramza, depending on when you place the events of that, I placed them in the 4th era, but if, regardless of if it's 4th era or 2nd era, they were still far less rejoined than we were when we faced Ultima.
Yes. Yep. And it's not confirmed he was a shard of anyone, just a champion of Heidelin, of which there are many.
Yes. So she was sealed again then, and she was sealed in Milan. Centuries later, we find her. And she is essentially a primal at this point. Even though she pretty much was a primal back during Ivalice, because Saint Ajora summoned her from the quote-unquote celestial abyss. Now, I would assume that this is just a version of her, just a portion of her, not the actual her.
The fact that there can be an abyss of the stars is fucking scary too. I've been trying to watch my mouth, but oh my god.
So she was summoned to the source and fueled by here, actually, let me find. Go ahead and talk while I find it.
Go ahead, Cobran. You can take me to task.
So Abyss of the Stars doesn't bother me that much because it kind of exists in real life too. In that we have voids of stars. Sure. I don't know if you're familiar with the Buotes void. And actually it's theorized that our planet Earth is actually in one of these larger voids in the universe. But I guess a star desert would be a good way of putting it, but basically just a vast stretch of nothing.
Yeah.
And I understand why that would be disconcerting to some people because, when you look around you, it's just full of stuff, and just imagining nothing is really hard. And would be really unsettling. But I just think of it as this area that might be artificially created in the game. So like an abyss of stars being, here is this area of stars that have just been devoured or destroyed for whatever reason. And while it's horrifying to think about, I don't find it really unsettling just because, it does exist in real life.
Did you play Mass Effect?
I did.
So the Reapers are beyond in the black of space between galaxies, I presume.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really seeing, it's just an interpretational issue. So I don't see the word celestial abyss to mean a place where there's no stars. I think of it as more of a, oh gosh, how do I even explain that? Well, you know how Pandaemonium has abyssos.
Yeah.
I'm more thinking about that, like some sort of dimensional / deep blackness that isn't just the lack of having, fusion combustion orbs somewhere.
Right. That's fair. And you also got to consider if there aren't stars there, or if it's an abyss of something, what else is there?
Right.
Just because you're not in a solar system doesn't mean that you're not going to come across, asteroids or meteorites or planets even just kind of floating around. And intergalactic space is pretty much the same. So I would imagine that in this abyss, there's likely something there.
Just no light to reach it.
Exactly.
That makes
Um,
sense.
So we'll go ahead and hold off on more Ultima until we get to P12.
Sounds good.
But P11 we'll go back to. So after that discussion, the brief discussion about Orosite, Athena, and a brief mention of Ultima, the door unlocks to the final gate, which is P11, which is a astoundingly accurate convocation of 14 chamber, where we fight Elidibus.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got a very familiar song playing in the background.
Yep. It's the Sunshine Pop remix of the Amarot theme. Love it.
Sunshine Pop.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
listen to it
Medium
again.
pop.
It for sure is. Like
Hmm.
it's also a reprise. Like the way they've mixed it, it's sped up a bit. It's not just. We talked about complicated emotions on the track last week. But yeah, if there was any question, if when you queue for the duty, it does say the Chamber of 14. So we have all the facts, but it's also named.
Yes.
I do want to address what Rug said really quick. Has there
Sure.
been a clear showing in game that Source denizens grew in power post rejoining? Ranjit kind of spits on that notion, as does Vothri. So yes and no. So Emmett Selk, when he's explaining, how the sundering worked, intelligence, strength, all the attributes that make someone who they are reduced by half every time they get split from the sundering. But from a game mechanics perspective, no, there's no real difference at all, because if you think about it, people who are 1/14th shouldn't be able to form those fully formed societies or um, be as powerful as Ranjit was. The one little tidbit we get on the first that adds to that is that, or that reinforces the less powerful thing, is mages and how mages operate. So there aren't really any primals on the first, because they're not strong enough or dense enough to summon them. And also the casting quest line with Nilebert, I believe his name is, where they specifically say, they have to breed generations of mages capable of just opening a portal to the void, where, any idiot trips over a crystal and he can open a portal to the void on the source.
Correct. And also Unakahai just comes over and just learns the magic this boy's trained his whole life for.
Yeah,
in like
exactly.
30 seconds. Yeah, so I mean, there's a difference between narrative and how they have to craft a game so that it's enjoyable and makes sense to like feel growth and play through. We could also just be dealing with simply the most badass people that could possibly exist on these shards, but that seems like a weaker argument to me.
Yeah,
I think it's just necessity of game mechanic.
So we fight Elidibus. We have to do so because he was.
Can you hear me?
Yes, hi,
I
Meowth.
can.
Meowth joined a couple minutes ago. I saw her pop up.
Sorry.
It's okay.
It's a big storm out there. I'm on mobile.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can tell. But thank you for joining. That's awesome.
If there's something I can contribute, then I can stay for a while.
Okay. You're welcome to stay.
But we fight Athemus or Elidibus, as we call him, because his mind is still shackled to Athena's will. We break that by fighting him. Afterwards, he says, "The fog is lifted. I knew that Athena's magics magnified the desires of the victim at the expense of aught else, similar to how Ultima's Orosite does that too, but I never guessed of what desire of mine she could exploit." Basically, he admits that since the moment we met, I have made plain my interest in you, my desire to understand your nature. I suppose that curiosity extended to how each of us would fare in a match of strength.
Yep. You wanted to
I
bro
love
fight.
you, fight me.
I love you, fight me. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So,
it's a real
well,
feeling. I don't know, you know, especially as like a teenage boy.
Yes, Meowth.
You know, it was a thing.
no, I was kind of thinking that if this whole thing and Olympus is let's say and it's echoing the whole thing about Line Returns, then
Yeah.
if this is I'm not going to say it's one same situation, but if it's close enough, and the whole thing with Universal and Hope, you know,
Yep.
which desire could have magnified Universal and Hope.
Yeah, I do see it being analogous to Lightning Returns, incredibly so, especially, you know, Elidibus kind of being less in love, more just infatuated, not necessarily romantically, but just like, I'm really interested in you. I want to know more about you. And part of that is, you know, let's fight, which apparently the ancients loved doing when they were getting close to each other. But also the parallel with, you know, being semi under the thumb of a more powerful entity that kind of spun you into being, and then when is done with you is like, well, I don't need you, so I'm just going to let you fade into nothing, which in 14 we managed to stop with our bullshit ether powers, but in Lightning Returns we do not manage to stop that from happening.
I'm really happy we have bullshit ether powers.
I kind of am too. I do like our plot device energy, but in Lightning Returns, it's very much a I don't know why we're talking about killing God. He hasn't done anything, and as soon as that happens, it's like, I'm gonna fucking murder this guy.
Yeah,
Like,
I
I
wish
turned on a dime so fast. I was
sure.
like, he killed my boy.
It's like
I
a
really
Spartacus moment.
was so fast with the clip.
Yeah, if you want, you could drop that clip into the chat. It's like, I want to fucking kill him.
So there's some questions in chat. So this came up in our Discord earlier. This distinction between, are the beings that Athena is summoning tempered by Athena in the same way that a primal would? I'm not sure the physics are the same, but
No.
regardless, the impact is that they are under her control to an extent. So they're given free action and a degree of leash, presumably at her whim, because she made them from the souls wandering the life stream. So she could have made that leash way tighter, but didn't feel the need to.
So I equate them less to primals and more to how familiars worked.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Good take. Go on that.
So yeah,
Yeah, I agree. It's my I mean, Athena. First, the aura side doesn't really temper. It amplifies your desires. In Athena's case, it's a desire influenced by her. But but it's also because we know that Athena operates by planting seeds of herself into others. So it's less tampering and her parasiting.
Sure. Also, a good way to take this would be if we just go back to P4 with Hesperos, right? Like how would a person like that have twisted this wrongly? And it's because the emotions that drove that individual were twisted and turned up to 11 by Athena.
Yeah, but if you recall, Hesperus was all about La Habrea, not Athena.
Oh
But,
boy.
so-
Queen says, oh god, she's Xehanort. Kingdom Hearts.
I'm not educated on the inner ways of Kingdom Hearts, so yeah. But
Athena,
I do know that, you know.
Yes, by proxy.
Athena
Yeah.
pretty much became the like you just said, the proxy of Ultima
Yes.
through the ancients.
And she's creating other
Sure.
proxies, right? Like she's creating
Yes.
the absolutely bonkers effed up Hephaestus, and then
Ultima gave Athena a tiny shard of her power. It influenced Athena. Athena is now using that influence to spread it.
yeah, and you see that spread further, right? So Hephaestus, and then down to Hesperos. It's the same kind of tweak everyone's brains the wrong way.
Athena was obsessed with unlocking the secret of life and becoming a god. And it just got dialed up to where she just lost all respect for everyone around her. She would sacrifice the star if necessary.
Let's have a child on purpose so I can use that as the vessel for my godhood. Sound good? All right, I'll see you in the bedroom.
That's what Themis mentions in the next scene. As I mentioned, Athena possesses a vessel that may serve in the creation of a god. It is someone that the Warrior of Light knows well, a man by the name of Claudian. By a twist of fate, his body proved ideal for Athena's purpose. The creation of a person requires not just body, soul, or memory, but rather all three. We are made from...
You know the whole thing. I mean, perhaps I'm going a bit ahead of myself, but the whole thing about a vessel, aside from lightning return shenanigans, but jumping from one Final Fantasy reference to another. Excuse my voice, please. I'm kind of thinking on how in tactics, refresh my memory here. Alma Veil, that's Ramsa's sister.
Yes,
In tactics, not in 14.
that's correct.
She was chosen by Folmarv to be Ultima's vessel.
Correct.
Because the Virgo aura site resonated with her.
Correct.
Yes.
She had a match with the Holy Stone, and therefore
Yes.
was the vessel. So similarly here,
We actually talked about this earlier. I did actually.
yeah.
And that's the his sister, Ramsa's sister in 14, had the aura side, the necklace, and Ultima used that resonance through her to bait us into coming to Orban as her new vessel, even though she worked through Alma herself.
Though in tactics cases, Alma was the intended vessel.
Oh well, yeah.
Well, so
I mean,
you say
Ultima...
intended vessel, but what does that mean, right? There could be like we chose this person and therefore that is the person, or it could just be an accident of fate. This person synchronizes with the Virgo stone. Period. End of story. They are chosen because fate. Insert genetics or whatever.
No, but in case of genetics, it's amusing because this is a bit of tactics spoilers, but
it's an old game. Let's go.
So, technically, I mean, it's not confirmed, but it's pretty much implied that Ramsa and Alma are descendants of Germonique.
Yes.
Who was the one who opposed Saint Ajora.
Yes.
So it's kind of amusing in that sense that bloodline may have to do with may have played a joke in the bloodline, in that the descendants of Germonique, one of them would be a perfect match for Ultima's vessel, just as Ajora was for Ultima. That's the thing that I was kind of reminded when Claudian, which is a different situation because it's about more or less your own bloodline.
This is where it gets complex, though, because, and we talked about this a bit last week, but there's a weird thing going on in Final Fantasy lore, 14 lore, about like soul transmigration when you go through the blender that is the life stream and you come out as a new person, versus true genetics where someone's giving birth to another person and that's progressing through time. So there's a weird spot here where this is the soul reincarnation of Erichthonios sundered, but the lineage isn't clear. And it can't be clear because that's not the way souls work in our cosmology.
Athena did say that Claudian was not nearly as perfect as Erichthonius was, right? Did she? I don't remember.
I do not remember her making any comment along those lines, but it's been
A few weeks.
well, 22 days exactly since I looked at my VOD earlier.
I don't think she does. In fact, the dialogue in the Raid series discusses how this is suboptimal, right? So, you have the P9 boss that's gathering souls because the soul density just isn't good enough for the task in the current era.
That's what I was thinking. That the whole thing with Claudian was kind of well, it was an obstacle to the plan, kind of.
For sure. But also an opportunity, because the fact that Claudian even exists and can go to Aziz's Law and get the aura site and then be used is like, oh, okay. Time to proceed.
So I hate to interrupt.
It's okay.
We're
doing that thing. Go ahead, Amy.
You guys are moving off topic. I need to move this along.
Go.
So, going into P12S. God, I really sounded mean there, but
no, you're fine. You sound great. Keep it up. So welcome to the seat of godhood. You did well to get here.
So Athena is different. She carved her memories into Claudian's soul while it was still within his body and made it her own.
Yeah, so she's riding Claudian right now.
So, yep. Even she is prone to error. After the sundering, beings became more fragile in both body and soul, and this difference prevents Athena from realizing the full extent of her desires. Makes sense. Sundered souls are more fragile. And that's why she set her sights upon the Warrior of Light. His or her uncommon strength rivals even the mightiest of our age. By scrutinizing the feats in battle, Athena aims to deduce the secrets of the wall's prowess and use it to fortify her own vessel. Only then will the culmination of her research be at hand.
So she, in this case, doesn't want to take the Warrior of Light as a vessel. She just wants to throw hands at the Warrior of Light to become stronger.
She wants to know what makes us tick.
To incorporate that
she can
power.
Use it. Yeah.
At the core, she is a researcher, but she is a twisted researcher. She is Hojo.
Totally Omega.
Yeah, it's similar in that Omega's trying to discover what our strength is and incorporate that into its design. Yeah, I agree. It's a similar thing.
I mean, she would have just asked, and we would have been, "It's Dynamis, bitch."
The way Omega is, it's more or less the AI trope, and that what is a human, what makes a human, whereas Athena is what is a human, what makes up a human.
Not just that either, but also it has to do with the soul density and ether density issue, which is mentioned in one of the earlier parts of the quest.
In other words, Omega is not aware of quote unquote what we are. Athena is aware of what we are, but wants to explore further what we are.
Is she not dynamism though? Because it seems that it was something
Absolutely
that
not.
No.
That is something a select few know about.
I assume that it was kind of a secret path from the
Yes.
the seat of Daniel to another.
It was an open secret. It was I believe the Elpis dialogue mentions that it
Yes.
was in the lore, but it's like something only somebody who's really into that section of the research would look at.
Yes.
It's not
Mhm.
something that's commonly known, even amongst experts. They have no idea. So
it's
even one
kind of
such as
like a
Athena
myth.
might not know a thing about it,
Yeah.
and that explains why it doesn't come into the plot at all.
So it's like a myth to the ancients.
No, not even a myth. An area
No,
of
I know it's. I mean, when I say a myth, excuse me for my awkward choice of words.
Uh-huh.
My mind is a bit clouded by myths. When I mean a myth, I mean that it's too nebulous for the public to consider a serious something more than old tales. You know, that's more or less what I meant.
Got it. I would consider it more like in the realm of academia. There might be a journal that had one article about Dynamis 400 years ago. Like this is not, it's that kind of level of it's out in the wee woo space where people aren't really thinking about it even in the expert circles. So not a myth like people know about it and they don't think it's real. It's more like it exists and researchers are not aware of it.
So we go into the P12 fight. She turns into a butterfly, and it's a very, very, very pretty arena.
Mm-hmm.
We begin the fight. She has,
She turns into a six-winged butterfly. Butterfly by default. Butterflies
Yeah.
by default have 4 wings.
Mothra.
And she has 2 more that are feathered. That effectively turns her into a seraphim.
Yes, that's right.
That's it, a seraph.
Butterfly Seraph.
Yes.
Yep.
Further adding to the high seraph theory that I have and continuously put into the Pandaemonium live chat in Discord.
Is this where we talk about the ultimate illusion being outside the arena constantly?
No, we'll get to that though.
But it's there when you start
she's
the fight.
Halfway through the fight.
Yep.
Well, not even halfway. At points during the fight, you'll see angels being summoned from out of nowhere. These angels bear a striking resemblance to the angels that were seen in the actual Ultima, the High Seraph fight in the Evilise raid. Except those were red. The red ones that you saw in the Ultima High Seraph fight are meant to be a direct reference to her form in Tactics. These, the all-white ones, are meant to be a reference to Ultima herself, just painted white. They are called Anthropos in
human.
ancient Greek lore, ancient Greek dialogue, meaning human, so or pretty much homunculi.
It basically refers to the avatar of Ultima in terms of Ultima. The way I interpret that, it's taking on a shape that resembles human form.
Right.
So that would be Ultima's form if she were to interact with humans, so to speak. You know?
So when you are fighting the ads during the ad phase, the entire outside of the arena is covered in blue flame.
That is that. They are the same.
The arena when it's on fire like that is actually the exact same as when you are in the transition between Ultima's sealed crystal form in the Evilise raid and the transition to fighting her truly.
I want to read
when
the
you're
quote
shielded
from when Ultima the Seraph casts Ultimate Illusion.
Sure.
I don't have it prepared, unfortunately. Give me a few minutes. I'll bring it back.
So you'll remember when we were shielded by Sid
Yeah.
and we weren't shielded by Ramza, but Sid, Agrius, and Mustadio. Underneath that shield, and Ultima was casting Ultimate Illusion. The whole area was just on fire, and she was just burning away our life force. That's the same thing that she was doing in P12, except with ads. Except at the end of it, she decided to scream out from the deepest pit of the seven hells to the pinnacle of the heavens, the world shall tremble, and then unleashes Ultima.
In the worst voice acted line in the entire raid series. Oh, Arden, take me up, please. You don't have to hide.
To what?
Tremble!
Oh god. Yeah. So we've been wiping to that point a bunch in Savage, so I'm just getting progressively more and more irritated with the delivery of that line. It's great in all the terrible ways that can be great.
It's horrifying. So
It's very much the delivery that you expect of like someone who doesn't do much in the way of voice acting. So I'm like, I wonder if it was an issue with the voice direction or if it's a more inexperienced voice actor, just because that particular part of it is so off.
all right, I found it. So Ultima, when the High Seraph is casting Ultimate Illusion, she says, "Simmer does the light of life before rising to the heavens in a cleansing conflagration of divine benevolence."
Try saying that 10 times fast.
Let's see if I can get the audio. I'm just gonna play it. Oh, that's in Japanese. They have this person on YouTube has a JP voice actor setting. So never mind. But yeah,
rising to the heavens in a cleansing conflagration of divine benevolence. See,
what'd you say?
She was trying to do it 10 times fast, I think.
Oh, were you? Yeah, so it's the same flame, and when you're fighting an entity that says she is the only god and it displays the level of power you have in the Evilise fight, just everything about the staging of the fight is incredible. They did an excellent job with Orban. I don't know what else to say.
The music during that part is terrifying too.
It's the song that plays when the Lucavi are summoning during Tactics, when there's like something creepy going on with the Count, for example.
I mean, Tactics is creepy.
Tactics was an amazing game.
Yeah, the who was it that did that?
Yasumi Matsuno was the one who did the game.
No, I'm talking about the score because they honestly deserve excellent
Hitoshi
credit.
Sakamoto, I think.
Was it
Yeah.
Sakamoto?
Sakamoto. Yeah.
I actually have the CDs in my closet here. I had bought them.
I'm
back
not
then.
sure if you saw that I shared the entire thing with the OSC of Tactics Ogre Reborn. Maybe I just summoned Ayumi.
Yes, yep, you gave me that, and I was like, bless.
I can send it to you later, Fal.
Okay, sounds good. But yeah, so the Ultima corollaries continue. So we were talking that was a tangent about how the arena outside of Athena is a constant casting of area effect ultimate illusion.
Yes. So we have an addendum to the P12 fight that we'll get to, but we defeat her, and she kind of lays down and is like, countless years I've waited for that within that stifling crystal, and now when my dream is finally within reach, you stand in my way.
That doesn't sound like Athena to me. Did anybody else get that vibe?
Me. I did.
That sounds like a different person, doesn't it?
it seems like at some point Athena and Ultima begin to converge,
It does.
and you
She
can
says,
clearly.
My theory was that any one true God would see us as we are, imperfect. She would hammer out our flaws and build something greater.
I mean, this is like a majestatic royal she.
Correct.
If you want to read it literally, but knowing what's going on with Ultima and stuff, you can take it both ways, and both ways could be actually the true. You know, one does not supersede the other. They both can coexist, because I think at the same time it's not of the mark for Athena to be so narcissistic as to not use a royal third person, but at the same time it also makes sense that she's speaking of Ultima here. Makes sense?
Yeah.
She says, to prove this could not but benefit the star, I would give it the perfect stewards that it might shine brighter than any other. So she is literally trying to create, quote unquote, stewards for the star.
Yeah, so the goal is, this is a what's the word I'm searching for?
She basically intends to create Lucavi.
Yep. Ericthonios says, you would destroy the lives already upon it. Athena goes, in that I am no different from our peers. Over the course of eons, how many creations have we wrought? Such creatures cannot but usher in their inferior predecessors into oblivion.
Hashtag Hermes.
Even with our meddling, nature would take the self-same course. If the destination is the same, is it somehow worse to arrive there by the guidance of a god? I think not.
I think so. This is where we fundamentally agree, disagree, agree, disagree.
I mean, without going into morals, Hermes also he only did so out of despair, but Hermes also made a judgment that only a god could have morally. The whole thing about, let's see if humanity can endure the final days, and if they manage to endure the calamity, then they will have the right to inherit this star, you know?
Sure.
And at the same time, we have Vena making a choice that wasn't hers to make, and that only a god could have made by deciding to cast man out of paradise. So yeah.
So Tetsu had a good question. Where does Athena's desire and Ultima's desires begin? Ultima's desires over anything can overwrite Ultima's desire. We'll just go back to the Ultima thing. So Ultima is a parasite capable of bringing low planets, entire planets, just through a transfer of just a portion of her power.
Here, have my power. You will use it poorly.
Yes.
And I will win.
All she did was give Athena a portion of her power, and she very nearly brought about the end of the ancients had it not been for La Habrea stopping her. But in reality, La Habrea not only stopped her, but corrupted himself as well.
Perhaps more to the question, La Habrea talks about how... So when we first enter P12, we have a conversation between Ericthonios, La Habrea, and primarily Athena. And he offers a question, and the question is basically trying to find out if that's really his mom or if it's a monster. so that he can justify using the magics he has access to separate their souls in order to save one and kill another. And after that happens, there's a conversation where he's asking La Habrea whether his mom was ever normal. Like if she hadn't come across the Aurosite, would she have treated him like a proper child? And La Habrea says that it's a question without any answers, but that, very much paraphrasing here, she was always a little bit crazy, and this is her truth. So it took a corrupting influence to raise her to this level of insanity, but she was always a little bonkers, and maybe she never would have been a good mom even if she hadn't come across the High Seraph. So where I'm going with this, to answer the question, is that Ultima uses the desires of others and dials them up to 11 in order to corrupt them for her best possible benefit, just like Athena is doing to others, including Hephaestus in the second raid series, and that's dripping down to Hesperos. So you see the same action and the same intent, where the prime entity is passing down crazy to the next level, and then that level passes down crazy to the level after that. And so
Ultima is unique in that she does not need a destructive power in order to fulfill her desires. It is the desire. She influences the desires of others, and they destroy themselves.
correct.
And basically, the only thing she needs in order to get a perfect perfect host in terms of parasiting their desires is someone with a certain obsession or devotion to something that can be perfectly natural, like for example Hesperos's respect for La Habrea, or La Habrea himself's devotion to his duty, and then taking that and, well, you know what happens afterwards. We saw what happened to Hesperos. We saw what happened to La Habrea down the line over the course of 1,200 years. No, sorry, 12,000 years.
Yes. So we reached the end of P12. However, there is more to it if you go into Savage, if you're brave enough to go into Savage, like some of us here.
I'm happy to bring those slides up. Give me just a moment.
Yep. So here raises the question of whether or not Savage is canon or not. And I believe in this case, and I believe Cobran will agree with me, P12S, the second half of it, is canon. Because there is way too much background and lore to it for it not to be.
We've had some conversations about this, and I think I've come around to agreeing with all of you that whereas before we weren't sure if Savage was canon, now they're using it as such a plot reveal that it really does seem like it's just revealing the whole story rather than an add-on that's not canonical. And maybe the line where canon ends is actually Ultimates now.
Yeah.
Like, it's a very different thing from Eden, the last part of Eden Savage, in which we're specifically told that the memories of Mitron are there, and that's what we're kind of reliving, is his interpretation of that, you know. So, but there's still memories. But this, I would agree with you guys that the Savage is like the real deal.
So at least this Savage is the real deal.
Yes.
Cobran, what do you think?
I agree. I disagree that Eden was more. So yes, we were looking at a crystal memory in Eden. It skirted the line, but it didn't quite cross over for me into saying definitively this is canon. Personally, I feel like the jury's still out, depending on what happens with Gaia in the future. But for Pandaemonium, this tier of Savage is absolutely canonical. Like there's no way it can't be, because it adds so much to the lore.
There's nothing in it
that-
that's contradictory.
No,
Yeah,
nothing goes against what was revealed.
Hmm.
So how about those slides?
Sure, I'll go over to those.
There's one thing that I kind of wanted to mention is the whole eye theme. We discussed, do you remember in Abyssus, the giant eye down there in Pandaemonium? And then there's this tire full of eyes in like Pandaemonium itself has like red eye with lasers, but also Athena's arena and the floor, they're all eyes, like the eyes on a butterfly's wing.
I choose to see them like Ultima has her eyes all over you and is always watching you.
It's
Yeah.
not just that; it's also a reference to biblical angels.
I was wondering what this I've seen this before, and I've seen it in other games. I've seen it in Xenogears. I've seen it all over the place, and I wanted to know what it's called. So if anyone knows what it's called, so I can start digging it up. I've seen it before. It's definitely a reference. You were speaking about that. Maybe you know the answer.
Like I said, it's a reference to biblical angels and Athena, and well, she is taking on the seraph form, a form of the highest angels. If you search for a seraph in biblical form, not the usual depiction, then you will see that's basically a ball, an eyeball with many rings of eyeballs, so to speak.
Just for Rugen chat, what I'm looking for, the proper term for, is the image of gosh, my words are failing me, but the wavy snake in the background with the series of eyes.
Oh.
You see it everywhere. You see it in Merkaba in Xenogears. You see it in all of the Xeno games at some point. It's this eye motif that's kind of reminiscent to the Eye of Horus, but it's not. It's a Semitic thing, and I don't know what or where in mysticism it exists, but I've seen it before, and it's just right outside of reach. It's just right outside of my consciousness. I can't quite pluck it out. It's been bugging me for months.
So, going to the song here.
Yeah, I'll play it.
This is called Ultima's Perfection, and this is an orchestral version of that theme that was played during the Auerbahn Monastery.
Yep, and it's also, if I remember correctly, it's Tactics Final Boss Phase 2.
Yes.
It is.
So I'm going to play the song.
It's the theme that plays when facing Ultima's second phase.
Yep.
Or the Arch Seraph.
Going to play it now. Not. It's only 2 minutes. I won't play the whole thing. We'll just get a good 30 seconds. Love how it speeds up. Okay, so that's 30 seconds. Yeah, so this plays during part 2 of the fight in Tactics.
Yep, and I've actually got a video for that too.
Yep, I'll click over to that if you want. But yeah, like
I've seen people
implying
complain.
I'm sorry, Meowth. Implying this is part 2 of that encounter, in a way. Part 2 of the Ivalice encounter in 14. That's how I took it.
Yep.
I mean, there's the two things I wanted to say. First, I don't understand people complaining about this theme feeling bland unless they haven't played Tactics.
How dare you?
There are people that say that.
There are, yeah.
Oh.
It's fine. We can't please everybody.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I could fathom that is like you haven't certainly played Tactics, you haven't played anything Evilist, haven't you? Anyway,
Not
moving on.
everything can be big fat tacos, okay?
It's true. So I've pulled up the transition now.
Oh,
Is that the next one you want to look at, Amy?
Yep.
All right, so this is a raider who's uploaded a video. We have liked and subscribed. Thank you, Madison. There are many. Just do a quick search and you'll
A
find
lot of
them.
them.
There's many of them. So this is the actual transition. If you didn't want to see it, look away for about 2 minutes, although the rest of this
Yes.
conversation will likely be about it. So
Yes.
be warned. I'm never going to raid Savage this tier. I've got too much going on, so it doesn't bug me one bit. And it's awesome.
Yes.
It is
So,
awesome.
In 5 seconds, I'm going to click play. And 2, 1, click.
Could my theories have been flawed? Although I wish so ardently. But perhaps, with the heart of Sabik. Yes, the flaws are not mine. This misbegotten world is to blame.
Question mark is who's speaking.
Only the hands of the god can fix it. My hands!
I too jumped off the edge.
And it's Unalaska.
Hi, Unalaska.
so
Yeah, so let's just review what we saw there. So we saw Athena rip out the orb from her chest that looks like a universe in a crystal ball and speaks
said
about
what-
the heart of Sabik and uses it
That
to
is the
channel a
heart.
form. So that is the heart. Right there.
mhm.
And
Arden,
then...
what were you gonna say?
Oh, sorry.
Arden?
I didn't hear Arden.
Yeah, I didn't say anything. I was muted.
Oh,
You
never
might
mind.
have just bopped something. So yeah, so
Okay.
that is the heart, first of all. Second of all, we see the tentacles, which is code for Eldritch Horror. And we see that the skybox still has the eyes on it, implying something is watching still. So I think that this is another avatar here. An avatar form of a higher dimensional being. But that's my sidebar. Go ahead, Amy.
So I got really excited when I saw this, when I heard the theme and everything. All of her attacks all throughout the fight too are just direct callbacks to the fight. Everyone is calling it the NASA attack, but it's when she just dims the whole arena, except into like one tiny little area, does a minimize debuff to you, and then you have to kind of adjust yourself. Yeah. It's meant to be a reference to the phase in the original raid fight in Orban where you have to run through the maze and then get to the end and fight her in that tiny, tiny little open area where you can only use your abilities.
I love that part.
Yeah, and in terms of visuals, first, the Heart of Sabik functions like a miniature universe there that we're inside it, and then the tentacles break it. That to me felt like a direct reference to what happens if we mentioned the whole ultimate illusion sequence,
Yes.
and that she was trying to break the circle shield that Ramza, Agrias, Mustadio, and Sid were creating. And
Fate Stay Night fans, it's a reality marble.
Reality marble.
But she shatters it, and then we're in her paradise with eyes, double rainbows, a snake. She has octopus-like tentacles. She has wings. Do you recall the art of the second tier, in which there was an octopus, there was a raven, I think, and there was a snake?
Yes. The key art.
Yeah. So we got all three animals in one. At least Athena is not the snake, but there's a snake clearly. She's got feathers like the raven, and she's got the tentacles like the octopus. So
I now have to wonder if this is the closest representation that we will get to the actual Ultima.
I agree.
Because with all those tentacles, doesn't it seem like she will creep her way into your mind and never let go?
Oh, for sure.
She also has that giant snake in the background.
I'm honestly wondering if this is going to be lead into the MSQ, because we still have all the snake stuff mentioned in Thavner that never got spoken on. The quote-unquote ending to this raid series was not really an ending. It felt more like a
beginning.
Haha, there's more. Just let him walk off with the heart of Sabik. Nothing
That
could
pissed
possibly
me
go
off.
wrong.
So, I hadn't intended on talking about this at all, but it seems topical now that we're looking at the skybox and the snake motif and the eyes of God thing. There have been a few books I've been doing audiobooks of recently that are talking about things like DMT research and altered states of consciousness and reports of what they're seeing. And there was a whole chapter dedicated to the author meeting. Whether you think that's real or just a figment of the mind, I'll leave to you. I'm not the scientist, and I'm also not the pastor. Okay, but the report back was that he was repeatedly, when taking dosages, meeting entities that seemed conscious that took the form of snakes or snake people. All of the pre-modern era shamanistic religions that used drugs to alter their states of consciousness that he was able to come across came across similar, or at least metaphorically similar, entities. And so this kind of snake thing, the skybox, the higher dimensional entities, it's just something to think about. This stuff exists in culture. It's a little bit esoteric, as was said in chat earlier, for a different reason. But some of this stuff is just kind of part of the ancient human experience, and you can imagine not knowing how to interpret any of this as a
modern human
hunter-gatherer.
Experience too.
Modern
to an
as well.
extent.
I just meant to explain like the depth of time aspect of this.
Yeah, because there's people who go on an experience and try like ayahuasca and other hallucinogenic drugs that are technically super ancient, and they also have snake visions and world tree visions and all this other stuff
exactly
that's really interesting
about. Thank you, Arden.
And even esoteric, and it may be, but the snake, before it was kind of a demonized symbol in the West. We have to recall that most ancient snake symbols, the snake is a symbol of just like the phoenix of rebirth, because of the continuity of the Ouroboros, like the snake that bites its own tail. It's a cycle of never-ending beginning or end. It's also a symbol of alchemy, and also the snake. You must remember that it's the symbol of medicine, and pharmaceutics, because the snake. It turns out the snake itself molds. First, that's also a rebirth for the snake. It cleanses the snake from the impurities of their previous life, so to speak, the previous skin, and turns out that the mold that the snake leaves is used to be used to create very powerful medicines. So that's why the snake is the symbol of medicine.
I really, the more I think on this, the more I actually believe that this is as close to Ultima's actual form as you can get.
Perhaps as we're capable of perceiving. If you're imagining yourself in universe.
Because when we first fought her, she has angelic forms, correct?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And demonic.
We can angelic and demonic. So those would be forms that we would perceive as good and evil, or as humans we would perceive as good and evil. We would perceive a god as angelic and a demon as demonic. Well, what would you perceive an extra-dimensional being to be? Something alien.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's almost no more alien-looking animals on this planet than the octopus or squid.
Going back to that extra-dimensional thing, we mentioned earlier that being extra-dimensional means not of this dimension, not just of this star, not just of this universe, but not of this plane of existence.
Yeah, like literally out of pocket. You know.
Like for all we know in terms of dimensions, because the dimension thing is kind of so. Cobb may recall this in Line Returns. There's a direct connection between the 13th verse and the 14th verse, and we don't exactly know if that was meant to be that they coexisted in the same dimension, or that there was a contact between both dimensions at some point. We know that this happened with Final Fantasy 15 because Noctix appear here, you know, and who's to say that Ultima from the Evil is of 12 tactics and stuff isn't the same case in a game series in which Ultima herself already is a higher being.
So yeah, I do remember that. In Lightning Returns, 14's universe is a legend. And it's very reminiscent of how the Omega Raid series treated alternate realities, where there are all these stories, we don't know where they came from, but they exist somewhere. And that's very much how it treated it. So I think Omega has a lot more. I don't want to say answers, but I think that there is a lot of groundwork laid there for what we might be seeing in the future beyond, additional shards, like actually going to other realities where stuff like Ultima might exist.
So
it reminds me how the official website for 14 is called the Lodestone, and if we were to take this like literally, we could understand Etheris to be the lodestone of all the rest of Final Fantasy verses.
So
if it makes sense.
I'm going to go ahead and read off a passage from her description from Ultima, and this is according to 14's lore, and it lines up very similarly to how 12 and Tactics was too. Ultima is an extra-dimensional being that was summoned to the Source ages ago by Saint Ajora, the first of the legendary Zodiac Braves, in order to destroy Malond. She was sealed away by the mother crystal, Heidelin, but centuries later awoke and so had to be sealed again by Ramza Beov and his comrades, who gave up their lives in exchange. According to the description given with her real-world collectible statue, mankind's fear of Ultima caused people to worship her, feeding the extra-dimensional traveler's empty soul until it brimmed with a force completely alien to her, a sense of self, making her a living primal. Ultima's Triple Triad card states that she was once the embodiment of pure ruination, and that she was fed by the terrified reverence of mankind, such that by a process not unlike the prayer-fueled creation of a primal, she became self-aware. It is theorized that the cast of the Ultima spell was based on her abilities, and that when the Warrior of Light asks La Habrea if Sabik was a piece of her auracite, La Habrea responds that he has no idea where it came from, but he believes it's possible that it may have been from another world. The Light of Kiltia, also known as the Church of Iocus, teaches that Ultima is a servant of God. On the other hand, the sect of Germanique believes that Ultima is God and will welcome them to heaven upon their death. Deemed heretical, this sect was banished from Dalmasca years ago. Ultima's followers, the sect of Germanique, were taken in by the 4th Imperial Legion, the ones who you battle in Bosnia, as part of its forces. Wielding auracite allegedly given to them by Ultima, they sacrificed their members to summon Lucavi, as they believe that upon death they will be reunited with Ultima in heaven. It seems they either do not know about Ultima's defeat during the Return to Evil storyline, or they do not think it matters.
This part is so important. Or they do not think it matters.
Glory be to Ultima.
Yeah, so that's a perfect time for me to mention this image I have still on the screen deserves an artistic interpretation. So I want you all to direct your eyes at Pallas Athena herself, the small angelic figure in the front with her crown. And I then want you...
I'm on.
Hold on. Please.
I'm on mobile. I can't.
No problem. And then I want you to direct yourself to the next layer back, the octopus tentacle monster. And at the top of the octopus tentacle monster, you will see white strands that also look like a crown. And then I want you to look into the background and look at the snake and look at the eyes and the crown of God in the sky. And tell me you don't see fractals here.
Fractals everywhere. It's just sprouting.
So, it's pretty, but something is looking at us. Just wanted to freak everyone out.
I mean, I'm more freaked out by the moth genitals on her tentacles than anything.
What'd you say, Arden?
I said I'm more freaked out by the moth genitals on her tentacles than anything else.
I thought you liked that kind of stuff. Anyway,
This is not my flavor of monster fuckery.
Don't you want to be enslaved by Ultima?
No.
No, please.
New fetish extreme has been unlocked.
All it takes is one consenticle.
One consenticle. So
no.
Yeah, I mean,
no.
I just wanted to bring up the imagery that they're giving us, because you can just accept it as, oh, hey, cool boss. But if you look at it, there's something else here. So, have fun.
Does anyone recall exactly what the double rainbow meant?
What does it mean?
Means because.
What does it mean?
Paradise.
Yeah.
She's creating paradise for you. Or version of paradise.
Yeah, so the Noah story, the rainbow in the sky.
Yep.
Will never again end the world.
Her perfect world.
Yeah.
And her idea, in her mind, her perfect world is her reigning supreme. Which is exactly what that image on the screen right there conveys. Yeah. The all-seeing eye towering over everything, bright, with her at the top.
Tetsu in chat says, I don't know what the ancients did in previous history to gain their world and their power to create anything, but I would think that their massive use of ether doesn't exactly go unnoticed in space. Again, the words is I would like to, I would think. So this is an opinion. You know, if there is a god being outside of our pocket, maybe Aetheris isn't going unnoticed. Maybe that's why Ultima's here.
I keep going back to that I am the only god quote.
Yeah.
Because there is something that she may know.
Yeah.
Because we do know that Hydaelyn and Zodiark are primals, they aren't gods. So when she becomes aware of the whole we worship this, we worship that, or we're doing this in the name of this, she may have said that line because she becomes aware of who we fight in the name of. Mm-hmm. And then she's like, who you're worshiping are false idols. I am the one supreme ruler. I am the one true God. There is no one else.
I am the one above this dimension.
It could also be like, I am the only God here, but obviously the delivery sounds better if it's just, I am the only God.
I think it excels in either truth or pride.
It's actually more the whole thing. I am your mother, I am your maker, I am an evilist.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Consign me to darkness.
And your light shall be forever lost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm a little bit concerned. I'm a little bit concerned about the idea of the creator of the universe that Aetheris sits in is this like dark evil entity that keeps avataring into the world but is actually external. That bothers me.
I mean, it would make a great target for the next story arc, wouldn't it?
So let's segue into that, okay? So we're done talking about Ultima for now. Let's go into the after scenes.
Sure.
So we have our victory scene with La Habrea, with Ericthonios, with Claudian, and all that. We say goodbye to La Habrea, but there is something we have to do first. We have to go back and confront the person who lets all this into Pandaemonium to begin with.
I'm going to switch back to the podcast scenes. Continue.
Let's see.
The one who sent us on this journey, which is?
Hegemony. Hegemony was the one who conspired to start all this in the beginning. Even though Athena was the master architect of everything, Hegemony was bent to Athena's will and set everything in motion. So we had to go back and adjust. We did a correction, in other words. And
you recall that Hegemony's Hemitheos form was that fused with a snake.
Yep.
Yeah, that's an important thing to mention, given the avatar form of Athena has the snake.
In that. Yeah.
Is Meowth breaking up a bit?
Yeah.
Okay. I had thought you stopped speaking. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Regardless of Hephaestus' prowess, he could not have won freedom on his own. For long days and nights I pondered what might have released him. I could only conclude that Athena's plans were set in motion long, long ago when she became the mother of one of her admirers. None would question your pride in your position, your devotion to Pandaemonium. Another one influenced by Athena's power. So La Habrea made her crispy and burned
out the
desire
corruption.
out of her.
Yeah.
Burned out the bad, yep.
Hey, I know that you didn't intend to reference the weapons quest line with the orphans.
I hate
but
you.
You did. So whether that was accidental or not, you absolutely did
Absolutely.
that. Burn out the bad.
You believe that I do everything on accident. Oh.
So while we're giggling in chat, Go ahead.
It's interesting that somehow, well, not somehow, but this whole thing about Ultima has been overarching the entire expansions to the point that we consider Athena the big villainess of like 5 different arcs.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, but even she is just a tool of a greater will.
Mm-hmm.
So Rug in chat said, Ultima giving me some serious Chaos Gods vibes with that desire stuff, especially Slanesh or Tzezench. So Warhammer 40k stuff. I had a friend, still have a friend, but he had made a joke maybe 12 or 13 years ago about the Warhammer universe. So in that universe, the Dark Elves are arguably the true elves, whereas the regular Eldar are like the Amish of the Eldar species, because the vast majority of the Eldar are actually Dark Eldar, the space elves. And their story is they're the only race that has created a god simply by their civilization. So they were so filled with debauchery and human sacrifice and crazy cults across galaxies that they actually birthed a god, Slanesh. And his joke was that Slanesh's avatar was actually just a giant Hello Kitty. Like a galactic level face just appears out of nowhere.
You remember that one planet that got that had the being of higher power just rain down upon them? Yeah, that's the Hello Kitty planet. Once flourished under auspices of higher power. Yeah, they were too much into the Hello Kitty stuff. Said power later laid waste to the civilization in a fit of rage. That's when they found Gretzko.
I don't think we have an audio issue, Holly, but maybe the others can confirm. I don't think we have a problem. I can see it all.
Yeah, audio works for me.
Great. Sorry about
But-
that. You might want to check your settings. We have
Well, if she
definitely had
can't
audio
hear
issues
us-
before.
So I'm going to jump ahead a little bit to Claudian, the discussion with Claudian right before the discussion with Elidibus, and then I'm going to let you guys take it from there because I've talked way too much today. Claudian lets us know that he has the heart of Sabik. He brought it back with him.
Ruh-roh.
And one of his lines is, however, its power as Orisight yet remains. No trace of Athena is left. And it may prove to be a valuable trove of knowledge in the hands of the right researcher. I fear that fate has left it with me for a reason. Its power as Orisight yet remains. Its power as Orisight yet remains.
Yeah,
Why?
so why are we holding on to this, and how would we get rid of it even if we wanted to?
Yeah.
So if you wonder who's going to be Ultima the next time we have an expansion drop, probably 3 expansions from now, it's going to be our boy Claudian.
Again.
Get rid of it.
Toss it into the abyss! Throw it into a chasm!
Yeah. Oh wait, Warriors of Darkness will come get it. No, we need to destroy it.
I mean, we could just go to Ultima Thule and abandon it there.
Oh great, then it can corrupt all of the emotional energy that has been being used to corrupt people.
So after that, we see Claudian off. And now we come to the scene that has Arden and a few others just visibly shook and upset. Elidibus' final dialogue.
Final.
Well, let's go over that.
I have to admit, I don't recall much of Elizabeth's final.
Don't worry, I've got it.
Word.
Yeah, I've got most of it too.
Still, I can recall. So he does this pretty candidly. He thanks us for going along with it, and then he goes into this. Perhaps Athena made us meet this way, or perhaps it is the result of who or what I was before. Still, I can recall vague figures, scenes from my future and your past. And then he says, at the Crystal's Tower peak, we clash, and later from that self-same spire, I send you forth. He remembers.
Mm-hmm. What a good boy. Head pats.
He then says, somewhere within my fragmented memories, I catch a glimpse of our journey to Pandaemonium. A glimpse which shows not the path we took or the destination which it led us, yet by its very presence demands that you are required in Elpis. A lot of people think that this line, kind of resolves the time loop, a closed loop.
It addresses it. It doesn't resolve it. It just addresses it. It does. It admits it.
I don't. Yeah.
That's all it does. It admits it. It admits there's a loop. Cobron, go. I heard you.
Yeah. Let's hear it.
Sick 'em.
This doesn't revolve anything. It just muddies the water more.
Yeah, I agree.
So-
We just dumped a can of Coke into the oil-filled stream.
Yeah, so this again is the same issue with the live stream. So his memories should not be on the source. They should be in the first. Even if they weren't, gobbled up by sending us back to Elpis. The other thing is that while his memories started to come back as fragmented as they were, I don't buy that this recreation of him would remember that. Like that took me out of it. Like I couldn't believe that.
But there's a connection between the shards and the source.
Get the fuck out of here. There is, but you can't just easily cross between them. There isn't a theory.
Sorry, that's my best Koji answer.
Time bubble.
God, I'm gonna rake Kate over the coals at FanFest.
I think we're finally losing you, Meowth. Just so you know. And that's okay. You've had an admirable attempt at covering a power outage. Thank you for being here.
You're most welcome.
Olympus admits that he likes the idea of what we call the Ethereal Sea, the name that he quite enjoys.
Yeah, rather than the underworld.
It teems with life, a soul, every star a soul in its journey. And among these uncountable stars, it was yours that crossed my path. For that, I shall be forever grateful. Aww. I wish you well on your journey, a journey as long as your star is bright. A journey not bound by the confines of this world or any other. And then we have another scene. Arden, take it away.
Which scene do you mean?
The light.
Well, we're just underwater, aren't we?
Oh, yeah, we're totally just underwater. Totally.
What do you make of this?
Elidibus monologue.
Yes. The very end of it.
Putting me on the spot when I don't even have the screenshots up.
Oh, it's okay.
How fascinating, the truths that dwell at the edge of sleep.
That alone just concerned me. It's like, what do you mean, sir? Please elaborate.
So I tried going back and thinking about it okay, so does that mean when we beat him in the Pandaemonium raid or when we beat him in the 5.3 storyline?
I think it means regardless. At the edge of death, when you're about to be consigned to oblivion, you see a truth that we have no business seeing until that time. And,
yeah.
What is that in this world, in this universe?
What
are they going to make that be?
The course of history is set by its victors, and yet, should this star continue upon its path?
That line alone bugged me because I was like, okay, that seems like very potential MSQ tie-in to say
plus
something
it was
that
voiced.
nature.
It was voiced.
Yeah.
Now,
I can't take that as like, oh, this is just a tease that maybe we'll have a sequel raid series or something like that. That sounded more like MSQ levels of gravity to me.
it does, but you also need to be careful because we need to temper our expectations, because every time they have a big reveal like this at the end of a raid series, a fell beast or whatever, we never get what they teased us with. It's always something apart from.
What was a fell beast in?
5.3 post cutscenes when Grahatia
That was
is...
MSQ though.
It was. But we're always getting like these teasers that seem so overdramatic, and then we get something other than. And I just don't know if we have do we have an example where they've done something like this at the end of a 8-man raid series that came to fruition?
I don't think we even have
No.
a comparison for an 8-man series having an ending like this.
I agree.
No, this is the
First
one
time.
where they took quite a bit of care and love into.
Yeah, like even Eden, which they almost made Eden itself MSQ, didn't have an ending like this. Like Eden was more cut and dry, like this story is done once you got to the end of it. And this is very much like, aha, here's all these little dangly fruits. Don't you want them?
Well, we don't have anything at the end. I guess we have Midgard-Sormr coming to save us and giving us some exposition halfway through a raid tier, but nothing at the end.
Yeah.
I mean, that definitely provided lore, there's no question. And it wasn't relevant to the fight sequences exactly. It was like kind of a teaser for what we were going to receive here in Endwalker finally with the Dragon Star.
The final two lines were the ones that made me and Arden kind of rack our brains the most. Look, the light.
Mm-hmm.
So normally when in stories like this, especially in like sci-fi or fantasy stories, whenever you say, oh, look, the light, and it's when you centralize your view on the screen and it just becomes brighter and brighter and brighter,
Mm-hmm.
you're usually visiting a higher plane of existence, or that plane of existence is greeting you,
Mm-hmm.
as in you're going to heaven or heaven is greeting you.
Mm-hmm.
In the Final Fantasy XIV universe, technically when you're in the Ethereal Sea, you're pretty much in the afterlife.
Yeah, the place of purgation is the Lake of Souls, and you will be reborn from the Lake of Souls.
Right. So when you're being visited by this light, the only thing that I could really connect to was that he is being reborn.
Yeah, immediately. That's a good thought.
There's that, and then also one of the things we don't currently have any confirmation on with the live stream, specifically in 14 in comparison to other Final Fantasies, is if the live stream exists outside of time when it comes to reincarnation.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they could pull some really fucky stuff there, which I think about because from a cinematography point of view, the other thing that leads to a fade to white instead of a fade to black is a fade to white is usually indicating that, the character isn't dead or the character is coming back or something like that.
Well, while we're on that, during the fight, when we're fighting his Elidibus transformation, he says, I am Elidibus, and I shall never die. I am the emissary, and I shall never die, he says. That was a bit of a gut punch. I'm like, honey, we killed you, but...
Yeah, and it was an echo of, one of his 5.3 lines.
But maybe
as well.
that has some linkage to what you're saying here about seeing the light and possible reincarnation.
Yeah. So I'm kind of wondering if 14's live stream may exist outside of the flow of time, and we may just encounter, his adult incarnation in like 7.x or 8.x or something like that.
We will
Emissary
see, but-
future job, maybe. No, no, Rug. That's silly.
I mean, we do need a new caster class, and Emissary could be a dark and light magic wielding caster.
Yeah.
He'll be reborn as a
7.0.
kid.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he'll be reborn as the most stuck-up kid ever.
No.
Oh god.
Boy, but this has been fun.
Yeah.
So there's a reason. I mean, we said this earlier, and I know last week was actually a little bit slower of a cast, but this was really kind of the real MSQ
Yeah.
because it ties so much into the Convocation and Elpis lore that it can't but be MSQ. It's just that's the content we're discussing. And whereas other tiers you might have been able to skip it and not felt it, this one you really shouldn't. So if you haven't played it, go play it. And I know we've spoiled everything, but it's well worth the
Pretty
playthrough.
much.
And I'm very happy
Play
with it
it
overall.
and
Time
go
issues
play through.
notwithstanding.
play Pandemonium, and then go play through, if you haven't already, the Evilise quest line, and kind of compare and contrast what we talked about today. Formulate your own theories.
Rug's got more jokes. We go punching random diplomats in the stomach, just like Elidibus.
Hey, I'm down for that.
That's the story quest for the.
I
job.
agree with Yumi that I interpreted the light as Elidibus being reborn. I think it would be really interesting if some future plot line was like, hey, this dire thing is threatening the star, and we've got this kid, and he's got lots of weird dreams and stuff.
Mhm.
And Stola sees him and was like, oh, you're Elidibus.
How do we
Do we
break
know
it to
you?
him? This is another
We don't.
Onlad situation.
Mm-hmm.
That might be a little bit of a stray thread. It's been so long since Shadowbringers. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, Onlad is the fairy Beast Tribe quests in Shadowbringers, and through that story is revealed to be a reborn Titania that we fought. Onlad is that soul. So
That's a very quick rebirth, which is another
It's a
reason
fairy.
to be like, Ah!
You might say it's a very quick rebirth.
it's very quick. Well, Esha.
Plot twist: Unakalhai is Eli.
I mean, they both have white hair. Eli picked him up off of the 13th. Elidibus is a primal the whole time. Oh, that was mentioned earlier in chat that the Elidibus from the first is a primal. It's not just that he turns into a primal version of the Warrior of Light incarnate. He is also a primal to begin with.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I think is interesting is that if Elidibus is reborn, then it's confirmation that we are getting unsundered souls and sundered bodies, and
Yep.
that presents a whole other interesting dilemma.
I thought I read something recently that one of the story people mentioned that the only thing that would really change, wasn't it in the Q&A that was just put out recently? They mentioned that soul density would change, but power wouldn't. And we know we don't agree with that, but that was the official answer. So soul density and power are no longer linked according to the Q&A. Did I read that right? I don't know.
So I just really want some like idiot kid to discover they have creation powers, use it, burn up all their aether, and die.
Yeah, right.
And it's like, why are all these children dying? Oh,
I mean,
we
one
dumped
of
a ton
the
sundered souls in the live stream.
one of the previous Q&As, they just like what Rug said, those souls would just be extra awesome in some way. It wasn't that their soul density or anything would be diminished.
It's not like they
They'd
could
just
create
be-
Amarat at age 8.
They'd just be, an unsundered soul in, a freaking Mikote, and they'd have some, like, extra powers and shit.
Now I'm only imagining Elidibus as a Mikote walking up to us and be like, why do I have a tail?
He wouldn't remember.
It's funny, and this doesn't matter at all, but when I took my very basic Miko glam that even Larizar used, let's be honest, when I turned it into a Viera in one of those programs just to see what it would be, I think it was accidentally Elidibus's haircut on the Viera. It made me laugh. I love that character.
You criminal.
Criminal.
The salts from Emmett as a Lala. Thank you, Esha.
Oh, yeah. Oh, boy. How about the wave?
What I think would be interesting is if they uncouple linear time from the rebirth cycle.
No,
Yes.
So
Say that again, please?
you're on mute.
Elidibus gets reborn, but it's like sixth era right before the calamity.
Oh,
so
no.
he's like a teenager already.
Yeah, that's what I was saying is like, we don't know if our live stream in 14 adheres to linear time or not. So there's every possibility that there's a reincarnation of
feeling-
Elidibus already walking around somewhere.
I get the feeling that they just at some point past when they released Endwalker, they just were like, you know what, physics and what we've set up before, throw it out the window, and we'll just say it's what we do.
We do what
I
we
mean,
want.
the physics are still consistent. It's just the time fuckery that doesn't make any sense and has no consistency.
Maybe that's why they did it. They couldn't explain a few things as well as they thought, so they said, well, let's, you know what, we'll throw in time travel and it solves everything.
Yeah, like they can't keep the 8th Umbral timeline, and I know I'm going way off topic here. They can't do time loops and keep the 8th Umbral timeline.
Well, this
Like,
was
it's
mentioned.
one or the other.
This was mentioned by Shtola recently as well. I mean, don't they reference the 8th Umbral in this patch?
They do.
Yeah, so, I mean, they know that somewhere adrift, there's problems. Like, there's a thing happening. And I didn't think of the Elidibus scene here in the with the light necessarily as implying rebirth, although the light itself may imply rebirth. I was thinking maybe he's seeing something that we just don't have the answer to, that maybe all the players are curious about, which is, maybe it's a time compression kind of thing. Maybe
Ultima's soul got put into the live stream, saw a little bit and ate him.
Yeah, maybe chomp chomp.
I mean, I'm still kind of hoping that time ends up being an actual entity in Final Fantasy XIV that goes like,
time.
no, you
please.
have fucked up the timeline so much. So, thanks for all the hard work. I'm undoing everything you've done and fixing this shit.
No.
I just want time to be a natural force that just resists change violently.
That too. That would work also.
Time to call up Alexander again.
I just also like the idea of like having this MSQ trial where we fight time and time kicks our ass and we have to watch as everything gets reversed.
So,
Please.
Rug just said something that I think deserves some attention. There has been some tension between retcon storytelling and player base. So Rug had said, I can tolerate these writing trespasses for one more expansion. Then we need to start ironing things out, or I am out. This has been an issue. Like, didn't you just tell us something? Wait, you weren't telling that? Like, at what point do you just get frustrated and bolt? I'm currently still loving it, but my threshold is different from other people's threshold.
And like, I mean, I can get, retcons and soft retcons of like, ARR or Heavensward stuff or 1.0 stuff, because there's a way you can do it where it's just like, oh, it was Charlie and propaganda, but here's what was, here's the actual truth.
But if they retcon that again a third time, then you're like, what are you doing? So where's the line between good writing and bad writing?
But also the fact that we've hit the point where we're getting in expansion retcons has me like, uh-oh.
Yeah, it's gotten really sloppy. Plus, now it's not
Sloppy.
the kind of retcons that we have seen where it's an additive retcon where it expands on the story. Now it's the kind of retcon where it's like, no, that's not right. It's this.
Yeah.
So rather than like how Einstein added to Newton, this is like, just kidding, there's this other guy.
Yeah.
Whereas you presented something, but then you had to go back later and then rewrite it. And it's like, well, why didn't you tell me that in the first place? Whoops.
Yeah, narrative consistency. It's a problem. Well, when you get to 10-year-old games, I don't know. I don't want to excuse it. I am enjoying the ride. And part of that is just taking the lore as it comes and not analyzing it too much, which is hilarious coming from one of the 7 hosts of a lore podcast. But really depends on how you're interfacing with the material, right? If you're looking for cracks or if you're just kind of on the boat. I don't know.
Well, that tends to happen when you're looking at lore.
Yeah,
You
for sure.
analyze it, you formulate theories, and your theories based on that lore are inconsistent because somewhere down the line something didn't add up.
Absolutely. Well, we went a little bit over today, which is actually a pleasant surprise. I'm really happy that we had an engaging and complete discussion with not too many lulls in conversation at all. It's now 4:10 Eastern, so we're about 40 minutes over. We should probably call it.
Yes.
Yep.
I wasn't sure if we talked about following weeks, so I was actually considering doing a bi-weekly, just take a break here.
Oh, next week I'm doing 16.
You're doing 16 next week?
Yeah,
That's perfect.
I'm gonna be embroiled with 16 next
Yep.
week.
Good. Well, so that's a great topic for discussion as well. I am going to play that eventually, so I probably won't be involved in any...
You cut out, Foul.
I cut
Yeah, she
out.
did.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I do intend to play 16, but I don't have access to the console right now, and I probably won't be engaged in any spoiler discussions on that title.
Yeah.
But that's awesome, and that is breaking news. The game just...
Yeah, I am going to be playing it, but I think we should wait at least 2 or 3 weeks before we start talking about it, because there's going to be a lot in that game.
Next Sunday, so I already put my playthrough of the demo up.
Mm-hmm.
It's on my Twitch and my YouTube. So actually, let me put that up.
I wish I could play 16.
So the demo VOD for me is up on my YouTube channel. That's my YouTube channel. You can watch it there. As for playing through the game itself, if I can possibly do so, I will try and hold off playing it until Sunday and play it on stream for you guys.
That'd be a nice treat.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that sounds awesome. Well, thanks all for coming to the podcast. And share it with your friends if you enjoyed it, if you're new, and we'll be back. Good
Yes.
show, guys.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. Thanks for watching us.
Mm-hmm. All right. Going offline. Bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.